Welcome into another video. This time we're covering Dynasty stashes. As always, if you like the content on the channel, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Let's jump into our first stash. Tyler Boyd. So Boyd was not nearly as bad as people remember in 2023. Despite a lack of Joe Burrow, he still put up decent numbers. 67 catches, 667 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's still an unsigned free agent with a lot of teams needing a wide receiver. So he only turns 30 years old in November. He's not entirely washed up and could easily catch on with the Steelers, the Chargers, or another wide receiver needy team. Now, the most important thing to remember with Dynasty stashes is you want someone who's going to gain value if something happens, in this case, signing in free agency. People know that Tyler Boyd put up fantasy numbers at some point. So he's a trusted commodity that could gain value later. And if we get to rookie drafts and he's still unsigned, he'll be forgotten. He might be cut. I'm not saying to pay anything for Tyler Boyd, but he's the perfect kind of target to pick up if he's released, because the season is long. You never know when you're going to need spot starts. So Tyler Boyd is my first stash. Next up, Khalil Herbert. Now, Herbert's a player who's always been good when given an opportunity, but he's had injuries at the wrong time, competition on the Bears. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on there. So let's take a look at his career and we'll kind of break it down year by year. 2021, 103 carries, 433 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.2 yards a carry, and 14 catches for 96 yards. He was decent. Then 2022 was his best year. 129 carries, 731 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5.7 yards a carry, 9 catches for 57 yards. This was his most efficient year. Then, as you know, David Montgomery left in free agency, leaving Herbert and Roschon Johnson to compete for the starting role. Herbert was the starter, but kind of wasn't as good as he was in 2022. 132 carries, 611 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry, and 20 catches, 134 yards and touchdown. He started 9 games this year. Now, this offseason, the Bears signed DeAndre Swift, but I think people are overlooking the battle for RB2 behind Swift. Herbert had better yards per carry and more carries than Roschon Johnson. Now, Johnson had more catches, but supposedly receiving is where Swift has always been supposed to excel. Not sure he actually did that, especially not in Philadelphia. But I have no confidence that Roschon Johnson is just going to be the automatic backup to DeAndre Swift. Herbert is a talented running back who is just now turning 26 years old. These types of players are the best dynasty stashes because RB opportunity is so fragile. So many injuries at the running back position. It's very easy to get an opportunity that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Additionally, Herbert is a free agent after 2024. You just never know. Running backs can gain value, get in a good spot. So he's someone I would definitely stash on my dynasty rosters. Next up, Tre Tucker. And I think Tucker might be the most forgotten about third-round rookie wide receiver I've ever seen. Kind of ignored coming into the NFL. He had a decent college career at Cincinnati, although nothing special. He had 52 catches, 671 yards, and 3 touchdowns in his final college season. But, you know, he came onto the Raiders, and there wasn't a lot of room for him. Devontae Adams, of course, the wide receiver 1. Jacoby Myers was signed in free agency to be wide receiver 2. And then Hunter Renfrow kind of was in the slot, leaving no room for Tucker. But despite that, he still was okay as a rookie. Only 19 catches, but he turned them into 331 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also got involved as a rusher, 10 carries for 77 yards. Now, he's still just 23 years old. Sometimes players take a little bit of time, especially when there was no role for them on the initial year 1 depth chart. Now, ordinarily, I would say, well, this type of player, I mean, they're not going to succeed, right? And you're right. If we're talking about someone like Jalen Hyatt, who still is valued a lot more highly, then yeah, I wouldn't want him at his price. But Tre Tucker is on waivers in some dynasty leagues. He's outside the top 200 in most dynasty ranks. At that price, I'm fine taking a shot on someone who has round 3 capital, still young, and actually flashed as a rookie. I'm sure that after rookie drafts, he's going to be dropped for random day 3 players. And I would add him because I do think that there's some upside. Last one, Tank Bigsby. And yes, I get it. Tank Bigsby had one of the worst running back seasons ever in 2023. And that's not hyperbole. It really is one of the worst. But he was a solid college prospect. At Auburn, he had 138 carries, 834 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 6 yards a carry, 11 catches and 84 yards in his first season. And then he just got some more volume, but the efficiency went down. In 2021, 223 carries, 1,099 yards, and 10 touchdowns, 4.9 yards a carry, and 21 catches for 184 yards. And then 2022, 179 carries, 970 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5.4 yards a carry, and 30 catches, which is good, for 180 yards. He showed everything that we want to see. Goal line work. He had 25 touchdowns in college. That's pretty good. Receiving work, 30 catches in the final college season. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for a college running back, that's actually pretty good. Efficiency, hit or miss. It was pretty good in the first year, fell off in years 2 and 3. He was an early declare, which is always what we want to see, every position. He even had 3rd-round draft capital, which these days for a running back is pretty good. Yes, as I said earlier, his 2023 rookie season was horrific. And we can just take a look at it here. 50 carries for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 2.6 yards a carry. 1 catch for 6 yards, multiple fumbles. But we know that Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson has said that Tank Bigsby will get more involved. I don't know if I believe him, but he's someone who has a pedigree, has draft capital, and is essentially dismissed in dynasty leagues. You just never know. Yes, most running backs don't break out in year 2. Yes, most players who are this horrible don't become valuable later. But since he just turned 23 in August, there's still an opportunity here for him to succeed. You never know. Travis Etienne needs a new contract. He has an injury history. This could be potential opportunity for Bigsby. Now, if you liked this so far, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I have a couple of special segments today, and then we'll close out the video. First of all, JK Dobbins signs with the Chargers. So the Chargers are recreating the Ravens backfield. First Gus Edwards, now JK Dobbins. It's a 1-year deal. Dobbins is coming off a torn Achilles. I still think that the Chargers target a running back in the NFL draft, likely with pick 69, likely with Blake Corum, maybe Blake Corum. I think that people saying, oh, this means that the Chargers won't draft a running back in the 3rd round. I disagree. I still think if Blake Corum is there, they'll draft him. Dobbins is insurance if they miss out on Corum or as a potential RB3. So for me, Dobbins dynasty value, I moved him up 1 spot to RB46. Gus Edwards, I moved down 2 spots just because there's now a possibility he could be in a 3-way committee down to RB50. What really matters is who and how much the Chargers invest in the NFL draft at running back. But Dobbins was always good when he played. The problem were the injuries. So he still somehow only turns 26 in December. Now, that's older for a running back, but it doesn't mean that he can't still have some successful years ahead of him. Gus Edwards signed a 2-year contract this offseason, and he's 3.5 years older. So, Dobbins is someone definitely not worth trading for, but if you have him on your dynasty roster, I'd sell for a second. If, you can somehow get that. Maybe you have to combine him with a 3rd for a second. Otherwise, I just hold and maybe wait and see what happens later on. Now, I also have one Patreon question. And of course, only patrons get to ask advanced questions for the YouTube channel. Patreon.com/fantasy advice to get those in. And I thought this question was rather interesting. Which top 15 rookie wide receiver has the biggest bust potential? Now, The question is, do we mean bust at their cost or bust entirely? If we're talking about bust at their cost, it's probably A.D. Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell. He's expensive. I do think he's going to have a real life role. But is he going to live up to the fantasy value? Maybe not. As for bust potential, just bust completely in his first 4 college seasons, in any of them. Then the last year was very good. He's unlikely to get first-round draft capital. Wide receivers like Xavier Legette, who have that type of bad production profile, and then don't get the first-round draft capital, almost never, ever hit. I mean, there's like, they do occasionally, but it's so rare. So just a total washout bust, Xavier Legette would be the one for me. Well, if you like this video, make sure, like I said again, to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate everyone who watches the channel. And of course, the best way to support me and the channel is to sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyadvice. You can get my rookie ranks, my dynasty ranks, positional ranks. I'll have redraft ranks on there, start sit ranks. And of course, you'll get to discuss fantasy football in the Patreon Discord, which is the best place on planet Earth to discuss fantasy football. But until next time, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.